Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to welcome both of you back again. You're two of our stars every time you come because you actually not only produce a superior product, but you also show how Congress ought to be working. And you do it very well. I'm very proud to be an alum of that committee and to sit on the Defense Appropriations Committee. Mr. Chairman, let me start with you first. I want to thank you personally and your staff. We had, as you know, some depot issues, and you guys did a terrific job in defending our position, helping move us along. We had the opportunity to meet with some of your excellent staff people not too long after that. They explained what they'd achieved, and I very, very much appreciate the effort you made on our behalf. I think inadvertently the Senate made some mistakes. It would have cost our taxpayers a lot, and more importantly, would have hurt our readiness a lot and our ability to respond to crises around the world. So your willingness to sort of get your hands dirty and your staff and get in and help us out is just deeply, deeply appreciated. I know that was true on both sides of the aisle, so I thank you both for that. I also want to touch on something Mr. Smith said, because I think it's really important, and something my friend from Wyoming also mentioned. As important as this bill is, and as good as it is, it's not going to mean much if there's not a BCA agreement and an appropriations product. Now, just so anybody listening understands, the Appropriations Committee doesn't get to make that decision. They live under the law like everybody else does. So it takes a decision above our head to actually do what my friend from Wyoming suggests and address the issue of the Budget Control Act. To be fair to all concerned with that, it did cut the budget deficit more than in half. But the idea was it was never supposed to be used in the way that it was. There was a super committee set up that was supposed to address the real drivers of our debt, and that's the entitlement programs. That's Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, all that. That's where the money's at around here. So the idea that until we deal with those provisions, we're going to have a problem spending-wise no matter what you do on House Armed Services, no matter what we do on appropriations. I mean, we are less than 30% of all the spending the federal government does. So this has to be, and that, in my view, to be fair, I don't think the last administration was very interested in it. I don't think this administration has been very interested in it. But you're going to have to sit down if we're going to restore the long-term physical health of the country. Because I actually agree with Admiral Mullen when he said that one of the great long-term, the greatest in his opinion, threat was the deficit, the inability to put ourselves on sound fiscal footing. Again, as good as this bill is, if we don't get to that point, we can't sustain the kind of military that I know all of us in this room agree that we need, and I think that you guys have laid out an excellent framework for. So I hope we take this as a challenge in the short term to fix what we've got to fix before the end of the year so that we're not dealing with CRs and sequesters next year. And hopefully for the next couple of years, the longer the better. I prefer my friend's solution down there, let's get rid of it. But if you're going to get rid of it, you got to couple it with getting serious about the deficit. One thing that won't work is thinking you can, this is over half the discretionary spending of the United States of America in this single bill, which sort of makes me proud. It's so bipartisan that it's that much of the discretionary budget. But if you think you can address all the shortfalls simply by hacking away the other things, like National Institute of Health or Center for Disease Control, those agencies also play an important part in our defense. Everything from, frankly, biosecurity, but more importantly, you're just more likely to die in a pandemic than a terrorist attack. That's the truth. So they play important roles. So we just have to have a balanced approach looking at what are the things we really need to fund in this country. But no question, you guys are right that defense needs to be funded. You've laid out a blueprint. Let me just end with this. I want to particularly thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know you sought this position a number of times. I remember telling you, sometimes, maybe when you want to do something, the better time would be another time. I think we got you at exactly the right time. I think you, no disrespect to any of your predecessors who I also held in very high regard. I think this committee has had outstanding leadership on both sides of the aisle. When I first got here and served on that committee, we had Duncan Hunter and Ike Skelton. I don't think you had two better people in Congress to hold the two responsibilities that you two now hold. But you are uniquely here at the right moment. You know this agency, you know the policies, you know the history. You spent your entire career on that committee. I know Mr. Smith has also had long and distinguished service there, it's really the way Congress ought to work. And I just think the country is so fortunate to have both of you in your respective positions right now, and the manner in which you cooperate and work together back and forth, and the manner in which the members on your committee, up and down the line, work together back and forth is really, I think, probably the most inspiring, committee process in the entire Congress. And so I hope we heed Mr. Smith's words and get that larger deal done, because all this good work won't mean what it should mean unless we do. And I just commend you both for your product and your openness, honestly, to work with all the members, whether they were on your committee or not. The sheer number of amendments that you both laid out, you, Mr. Chairman, talked about on the floor, in committee, and your receptiveness to work with members on both sides of the aisle to give us the best product that we could get, I just think is extraordinarily commendable and a testament to both of you and your staff and how you work. So I'm very, very proud of the bill, very proud to be voting for it, and absolutely commit to both of you to try and work with you to make sure that we get that fix that we both need, we all need in the Budget Control Act, and ultimately deal with the problem, as my friend from Wyoming said, but also in the context of working toward that budget deficit in these other areas that so far neither party has been willing to embrace and address. With that, I'll yield back, Mr. Chairman.
I thank the gentleman for his comments.